Welcome everybody to another Tasting Room Conversation. So glad you could join us today. It's quite an honor for me to be here with somebody who is very well known throughout our community, Lucas Richaman, who's the conductor of the Bangor Symphony Orchestra. Lucas, I gotta say, I've been very impressed. And you and I have been acquainted for a good time now through a few different projects that we'll hopefully talk about a little bit that we've done with Gagan's and the brewery with the orchestra. But I knew there was a wealth of background that you had. But getting ready for this conversation, man, I thought I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look up some stuff, and please do check this out. The website for the symphony has the beginnings of what you've kind of, the highlights of your career to this point, which is quite extensive. But I had no idea. I was naive to the fact that you have a vast array of experiences that aren't necessarily what one would think of as this is what the work of a conductor for the Bangor Symphony Orchestra does.
I understand.
So
sure.
I'd love to get into some of that stuff, but let's start with 10 seasons, 10 years in Bangor.
Yes, this is my 10th anniversary as music director for the Bangor Symphony, and I can't believe it's already 10 years. It has flown by, but we thought we'd kind of make a thing of it. So each of our programs this year reflect a different aspect of what I like in music.
Yeah, cool.
So
what are those things? Let's highlighting the things you like about music. What are those highlights?
Well, for instance, our first concert, we have music from The Village, the movie The Village.
Yeah.
And that speaks to my experience in Los Angeles as a conductor for film scores.
Yeah.
And I conducted the score for M. Night Shyamalan's movie, The Village, James Newton Howard's score that he wrote for Hilary Hahn.
Was that the movie that was nominated for an Academy Award?
The score was nominated for an Academy Award.
That's wild.
Yeah. So James had arranged it into the music from the score into a piece called the Village Romance.
Awesome. And
we have Subin Lee playing with us this music, along with music from Carmen, arranged by Sarasate. So that's real flashy, incredible stuff. Also on the program, we have we begin our whole season, the 10th anniversary, with a brand new work by Catherine Bostic, who's a composer that I became familiar with when I, in one of the 22 years that I've taught a conducting workshop out in Los Angeles for film and TV composers. I teach conducting. Cool. And Catherine was in I think maybe 2007, I want to say, and I had the chance to work with her on besides her work in film and TV, she also created a piece called the August Wilson Symphony, which I was able to corral a performance, get a performance going with the Pittsburgh Symphony. We premiered it almost 2 years ago with Felicia Rashad narrating as this piece, and it's incredible music. Catherine has written a new piece for us to premiere to open our season, and I'm really excited about that. So that ties in the BMI, Broadcast Music Incorporated, which sponsors that conducting workshop, and my film stuff. And then we conclude the concert with incredible music. Here's what you'll like the story. It's Pictures at an Exhibition. And it was originally written as a piano piece by Mussorgsky, and then Maurice Ravel, fabled and noted French composer, took that piano music and blew it up for orchestra to play. Wow! So
that's not an easy task.
It's not.
It's
not. And when you hear this music, you'll recognize it.
I play in a rock band, and it's hard enough to get like, hey, we have a drum set, and we have a bass guitar, and we have another, and we're gonna, to think about the levels. That's unreal.
Well, Ravel was a master. So the cool thing about this particular piece, and besides it being a great opening for our concert, is that I actually had a chance to conduct the last movement, the Great Gate of Kiev, for a very special project.
Okay.
I got a call at like 8 o'clock in the morning from a friend of mine in LA. Lucas, can you be at the studio at 10? What's going on? Well, we got this project and we really need a conductor. Okay, who's it for? It's for Michael Jackson.
Oh.
So
sure.
So we went to the studio, and there we have the Great Gate of Kiev, which has been reorchestrated because originally as a piano piece. Another arranger had made an orchestration of it for the History Tour.
Okay.
It was part of an animated thing that was featured before Michael Jackson would come out on stage.
Okay.
So they wanted a conductor to kind of just put on a show and that kind of stuff. So we went through the whole piece and then went back in the recording booth and met Mr. Jackson and
That's awesome. That story right there. I mean, Michael Jackson. I know the Star Wars scores and John Williams has been a piece of your conducting pedigree as well. How do you go from presumably, like many of us who have in our lives had some sort of music education, how do you go from that kid that picked up an instrument for the first time to being a conductor that is on that level? I mean, what is, and I'm sure we don't have anywhere near the time to get into the whole nitty gritty of it, but what is when was the moment, what was the catalyst and that brought you to this point?
It's several things.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to have known from a very early age what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And along the way, I've had incredible support, mentors, and my family, and great opportunities.
Yeah.
And the opportunities have come about because I've always done my best to do whatever I do with great integrity, as you do.
We do our best.
I mean, and with that, you make a good impression, and it leads to one thing after another. And it's very early on. I had, when I was 6 years old, I was reading the, I mentioned this particular story because, I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah.
The idea that everything's possible.
Yeah.
And there are no limits. So if you want something to happen, then make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And also, and to face fears and not be afraid of trying things and going for things.
Yeah.
So when I was 6, I would read the biographies of composers, and I was a little precocious.
Yeah.
And I was reading about Bach and Beethoven and Mozart and Haydn, and when I got to the end of the book, the composer was dead.
Yep.
So I thought, being 6, that in order to be a composer, you have to be dead.
Okay. Yeah. Reasonable. That is a 6-year-old thought process for sure. Yeah.
And then I read the biography of Aaron Copland, and Aaron Copland at the time was very much alive.
Yep.
I got to the end of the book and he was still alive. Aaron Copland, most people know as the composer of Rodeo and just incredible Americana music, awesome. Fanfare for the Common Man. You've heard his music.
Yeah.
So I ran to my father and I said, Daddy, I want to write a letter to Aaron Copland. And my dad said, Lucas, I don't know if I can find his address. Daddy, I want to write a letter to Aaron Copland. Long story short, he sent a letter to this esteemed icon of American music, conductor, composer, pianist, teacher, and he said, Lucas, don't expect an answer. He's a very, very busy man. 6 weeks later, I got a postcard from Aaron Copland.
Wow.
He wrote, Dear Lucas, I received your letter and thought it was very fine. Good luck in your composing, your friend Aaron.
That's great.
Now the fact that this American icon of classical music would take the time from New York to write a little 6-year-old boy in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And the idea that we have a responsibility as leaders in our community to reach out and help young people and do for them what others have done for us.
So hearing this story, I mean, leads to, again, looking at the bio, I mean, you've put in a lot of work into music education, and really, from the sounds of it, a lot of conversation with teaching young people about classical art forms and orchestral music and music in general through those things. And it's really cool to hear that story as the foundation of that. And I think it's so important for people to hear those things where, you know, how much time did it really take him to read that letter and send a postcard back? But how impactful is it? And how important is it? And oftentimes people don't take those moments and do those things. And I love that you are somebody who took that lesson and continue to move it forward. Let's segue into a piece that you're working on right now with part of the main science fair. Is that
absolutely?
Yeah.
Before we get to that, because speaking about the educational piece.
Yeah, let's.
A little nod to that in our November Masterworks is the fact that we are going to do a side-by-side performance with the Bangor Symphony Youth Orchestra.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to have the members of the Bangor Symphony Orchestra on stage with the members of the BSYO.
Yeah.
Playing a piece called the Academic Festival Overture.
Okay.
By Johannes Brahms. And this piece in particular, I mean, there's nothing like playing on stage with your teachers.
Right.
You know, I mean, making music in that way, because so often a youth orchestra is relegated. You know, you play with your peers, but to play with the professionals is extraordinary. And I remember doing that as a student myself. This particular piece, the Academic Festival Overture, was the piece with which I made my debut conducting at Tanglewood, the summer home of the Boston Symphony, when I was 16. And 2 years later, it was the same piece that I was in a master class with Leonard Bernstein.
Okay.
And he was teaching me how to conduct this piece.
Wow.
So there's the through line with this particular piece. In fact, that master class is on YouTube.
That's
so
cool.
People can
cool.
Search Lucas Richaman and Leonard Bernstein masterclass and they'll find it.
All right.
It's pretty amazing to watch. And yes, I'm a little thinner.
Aren't we all? you go back to the archive. But
I wasn't drinking beer yet.
Well, there you go.
But the educational component, the fact that whether or not these students in the youth orchestra are going to go into music,
right?
The fact that they're learning instruments and learning the idea of communicating and working together as a team for a greater purpose is extraordinary. It's
so important, and my music background is very different in that it went through jazz and into rock and those sorts of things, and obviously it's not my career path, but I can say that too. You know, the young people who have that experience with music, many of them, it's something that lasts for a very long time. And there are two things that I, in my life, am happier and healthier when I'm actively engaged in physical activity and music. You know, and my music is not, it's not anything that is going to be a career focus of mine. It's not going to be a huge thing, but I've got some friends that have been good friends for a very long time, and we get together a few times a week and we make music in my house, and we're pretty good. We might play out someday, but it's still that these young people who are involved in these things, the efforts that you put forth into music education, music is something that can stick with young people for a very, very long time, and more so than almost any other academic endeavor. It's something that just feeds your soul forever and for always.
No question.
I tell my kids all the time. My son Isaac is 12. My daughter Connemara is 10. And they've both gotten into music a little bit, not as much as I'd love for them to, because I tell them all the time, I say my biggest regret was that window of time in my life where I wasn't playing music, where I stopped, and then to come back to it and those sorts of things. So I think that's awesome.
But it's music is a universal language, and what's always been remarkable to me is that you don't have to study. You don't have to study to make music. Everybody has a voice. Everybody can sing. Everybody can play, strike something and make a rhythm. You know, everybody can communicate in a musical way. Yeah. And not only is it communication, but it's a means by which we can bring up our emotions and tell stories. Yeah. Yeah. That, like none other. Yeah. And everybody has that opportunity and ability. Yeah, definitely. And I think there's so many genres, there's so many places to connect with music that all are fantastic, and there's something in there that speaks to each and every one of us. And the storytelling, I think, is fantastic. When I think of music, I tend to go to more emotive music, more storytelling music, those sorts of places, which is, I have a very eclectic interest in music, I think, because of that. Sure. It's more in that, what's telling the story, what's the connection piece in those. So telling stories with music, great segue into the work that you're doing with the Maine Science Festival. Yeah. So this is I'm honored to have been commissioned by the Maine Science Festival to write a piece that is in conjunction with the Maine Bicentennial. Yep. The idea of this piece is to write a piece that examines the effects that climate change are having on the eastern seaboard. Yeah. And when you so that's all well and good, but what does that mean? Yeah, right. So for the past few weeks, I've been Kate Dickerson, who runs the festival, has set up a number of interviews with scientists. Yeah. And I've been interviewing scientists at the Bigelow Laboratory, Friends of Cascade Bay, the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, the Maine Center for Coastal Fisheries. I mean, it's just like, I've been learning so much. It's like going back to college, which I love. Yep. And just getting an intense understanding of what is happening in our backyard. Yeah. We tend to, in thinking about conservation and the things that are going on with climate change, we tend to focus on the land. But the fact is that 70% of the world is covered by water, and there's so much that we don't know. And the fact that the Gulf of Maine is the second or the first, one of the fastest heating bodies of water in the world. I mean, that's unbelievable. Yeah. And the effect that it's having on all the marine life, and learning about all the chemical reactions and the various plant life and animal life that it's affecting. So then what do I do? How do I incorporate that into how do we turn this into a piece? Yeah. So and to tell it in a story, use the music to tell a story that is compelling, that speaks to the heart, because one of the difficulties when scientists have information to convey, it becomes very dry. It's numbers, it's statistics, and but how does that affect my life? I don't really know. Right, and climate science is, there's a lot of it that's very concrete fact, very straight line stuff that that most people can relatively easily grasp. But then there are so many layers of modeling that gets very complicated and very complex. Sure. And it's difficult for people who haven't studied it to really see the big picture of what's being spoken about. Right, and whether or not you believe in climate change, that it's happening, the fact is that there are more extreme weather events going on. Yeah, I think we can lay to rest. My undergraduate's ecology and environmental science, so I have a little bit of a foundation reference point in this.
I think it's pretty clear we can put to rest the two facts. We're in a phase of major climate shift.
Yes.
I think that's a fact.
Yes.
Most anybody who has any point of reference for anything more than the last 5 years of life has seen, some real stuff. And I think another truth that we can say unequivocally is there are things that we as the human population are doing that are not favorable, and there are things we can be doing better. The only argument that I could at all entertain on
is whether or not the human element is causing it, or is it
but we're certainly compounding a situation that's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, how to take all that information and turn it into a compelling story of sorts, a musical thing. So, through the through the various interviews, there are always tidbits in this, and how do you tie all these things together? So, because it's the 200th, it's the bicentennial. One of the things I'll be doing in the piece is mapping, taking sine wave and mapping it to the ever-changing temperature.
Yep.
So that the course of the piece over, say, 200 measures, as a central part of the piece, will have the effect where the music is, in fact, increasing in temperature.
Wow. That's awesome.
In addition, there's the full orchestra, and there's women's chorus and children's chorus.
Okay.
So I have those elements as well
great.
to add, with the children being the voices of the future, and what kind of world are we leaving for our children. So it's no small task.
Just an easy. You're just writing a song.
But what I love about this is, and something is kind of pulling me into an arena of music for a certain kind of social awareness.
Yeah.
And I want. It's hard for me to write generic string quartet number one. Just write music for music's sake. I do like to tell stories. I like to have people give people an impression of what is the purpose. So a piece that was recently premiered and performed in Tennessee, Minnesota, and now just recently Los Angeles, was actually my first symphony, a full 35-minute work for orchestra and chorus.
Yeah.
I received permission from the Leonard Bernstein family to write a piece inspired by the quote that Leonard Bernstein, the speech he gave after JFK was assassinated, in which he addressed what can we possibly do as artists in the face of horrible events. And he said, this will be our reply to violence, to make music more intensely, more beautifully, more devotedly than ever before.
Yeah.
So that's what we can do. We're not going to pick up a gun,
right?
But what we can make our music more
remind us of humanity,
right?
And remind us of the opportunity for beauty and the opportunity for change and the opportunity to get involved.
Exactly.
Those sorts of things.
Because when tragic events happen, the first things that are established, you want to get look at the Bahamas. You want to get shelter, food, water established, and then the element of any kind of normalcy. What happens when you introduce music again?
Yeah. When
it's like okay, we can get back to some kind of normal.
Right. Yeah.
So in this case, with this piece, it ends with an anthem, which says, "For the sake of our oceans, for the sake of our earth, for the sake of our land, we must heal the world." And in the Hebrew phrase, "Tikkun olam," for the sake of our brothers, our sisters, for the sake of our mothers, our fathers, our daughters, our sons, for the sake of our love, for the sake of we must heal the world. Yeah. And in fact,
and what a powerful, awesome statement, stepping that beyond even the focal point of climate change.
This piece is not. This
is a different piece. This is
the piece that I just which is called Symphony. This will be our reply.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And in fact, that piece that was just done, third performance in Los Angeles, the day after the shootings in Dayton, I got an email from the music director of the Dayton Philharmonic, Neil Gilliman, and they're going to be doing my piece in March.
Wow.
It's that kind of thing that is written to have a healing effect on a community that has suddenly been devastated by tragic violence.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing these things happen. As population grows, these are some of the realities of a crowded world. People stepping on toes and losing sight of our humanity and losing sight of how we are more the same than we are different. And I think it's really cool to hear you very intentionally moving your music and your voice to be something that really shines a light on reminding us what's important.
I appreciate that.
And I think I'm seeing more and more people take on that mentality with a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be. I think there's a lot of work in our world that needs to be done on a lot of things, and I don't think I know anyone that has the answer to get us there.
Yeah.
But I think more of us having a conversation openly with each other.
That's the thing, building our communities and striking down the walls
mm-hmm.
of the polar divisions, polarized divisions.
Right.
But in fact, being able to have the conversations.
Yeah.
That's
and
imperative.
And music can be
that healing force.
It can be a safe medium to explore it.
Oh yeah.
And really confront it and engage with it, whether it is violence or it is climate change or it is seeing more of yourself in your neighbor and seeing those connected pieces. I know a lot of early classical work had a lot of theology intertwined with it, and those sort of exploration pieces, and what just a powerful, wonderful thing, and it's cool to me. I feel like the BSO is such an undervalued piece of our community. I am admittedly novice at best when it comes to orchestral music, but every time I have the opportunity to experience it performed on the level that you are leading that crew in, it is moving, it is emotive, it is wonderful.
I will say thank you, and while there might be the perception that it's undervalued, and we certainly want to get the word out more. At the same time, this season is our 124th season, and we're going to be celebrating 125. So only in a community that really values and knows what they have could an orchestra be sustained in that kind of fashion. And that's one of the reasons that my wife and I wanted to move here.
I wanted to get to that. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about California. We've talked about all of these experiences that you've had elsewhere that are amazing, and just any number of these things that we've talked about, and many more that we haven't talked about, could easily be a career highlight for anyone. You've done these things, you've engaged in these things all over the world, and you're here in Bangor.
Yep.
Do tell. As a kid that's born and raised in Bangor, I know why I love it. I know why I haven't left.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated, particularly with people who have opportunities to be almost anywhere and pick here.
Yeah.
So.
Every time I land, I would fly here for concerts. And in the first 5 years that I was music director, we were not living here. We were. I would land here, and I would feel this I just this feeling of I've come home, a feeling of peace, and that's how it's been. And then to make music with a group of musicians who are so eager to make music, and haven't forgotten why we got into this business in the first place. I love that kind of music making. And then the fact is, I can go wherever I want from Bangor.
Right.
And I can get to LA. I'm going to Oslo in November to conduct Star Wars. I was in Cleveland and Philadelphia, and I mean, I do all that stuff, and then come home, and it's like, why do I ever want to go away? I don't need to go. You know.
Right. Yeah.
So we just really, really enjoy it here.
Yeah, it just feels home, you know.
Absolutely.
It just feels like home, and I'd agree. You know, for me, in my perspective, it's harder to get to a place like Maine, like the Bangor area, than it is to get to anywhere else from the Bangor area.
Oh, interesting.
You know, because it's when you find something like this area. There are presumably hundreds of thousands of places like this throughout the world.
Sure.
But they're lesser known. They're not understood. But when you find that place that's that place, there is something. There's a pull. There's a gravity to it. And I mean, for me in my life, I was born in this area, and I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities to travel and see good parts of the world and experience a lot of things and see some places that I love, some places that I look at and say, you know, I could be okay here, I could be happy here. But again, when there's something about this spot and this place, and I think there's something very unique and interesting about the way Mainers in general build community. It's kind of this, like, it's not overtly obvious as to how it all functions, but when you figure it out, it's like you're in. You're in, you're in. You know.
Although I understand that I will always be from away.
Yeah, you know, there is a level of that that is probably never going to go away. But again, part of what I want to do with these conversations is shine a light on some of these things and say, you know what, the mentality that a lot of us, for a time, particularly in the Bangor market, have had, the mentality of we're a nowhere place, we're going nowhere, there isn't opportunity, there isn't culture, you know, we get in those downward cycles, and I think less or so in the last number of years. And that idea that you're born here or you're from away, it's like, you know, one of the things that I think could make our community stronger and stronger and stronger is continuing to welcome people in.
Sure.
And really embrace and really grow. And I think from a health perspective of our community, opening up opportunities to see more cultural diversity, to see more population size without you know, I'm not an advocate of turning Bangor into a major metropolitan area.
No.
It's beautiful the way it is, but to welcome people who want to be a part of it.
I just so you know, I don't look at the being away from being from away as necessarily as a negative, because I love the pride in what it means to have been born here. Because I'm from LA. Yeah. But I don't have that pride. Yeah. I wish I did about being in LA. Yeah. So I applaud that. But the fascinating thing with the amount of culture and things that are going on, you could do two things every single night. Oh yeah. There's so much going on. It is not a desert of no. There's so much going on. And there are people coming from all over to participate, to appreciate and perform. Yeah. Many of the musicians that you conduct are coming in from not certainly
Bangor proper.
Absolutely. About half the orchestra now comes from outside of Bangor, and many of them come here, have opportunities to play in other places, but they enjoy what we do, and that really touches my heart.
And for those who are tuning into this, checking this out, if anybody out there has not gone to a concert, even if your point of reference, if your frame of reference for orchestral music was, you visited your grandmother and she was listening to NPR and it had classical music on, give it a shot, right? Give it a shot with
Absolutely.
an open mind, because there is a very clear community that's built around the orchestra that is, it extends into the entirety of the audience, and you feel it when you're there.
Our concerts are not set up to be these stuffy events.
They're not at all. They're chill and relaxed.
Good.
And
what it was always floored me is that we have probably more young people, like really young people, in the audience than I've ever seen at classical concerts.
Mm-hmm.
And they're quiet.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It just amazes me.
There is something. I am not going to often have classical music on as a recorded piece in the background of my life. That's not my typical go-to.
Sure.
But there is something incredibly powerful and beautiful and soft and gentle and aggressive at the same time sometimes, about a talented orchestra playing passionately a piece that they get and they understand and they're putting out to an audience. It's again, if people are tuning in and have not given it a go, your 10th season is a season for them to come give it a look.
Yeah, it's all on the website.
Yeah.
And also the Bangor Symphony Youth Orchestra concerts are listed on the website when we have. So
awesome.
If you haven't seen this orchestra, the young people play, led by Sasha Zabradayeva, who's one of our violinists in the orchestra. She's doing wonderful work as the conductor of the youth orchestra. So there's just so many. We have actually 5 youth orchestras now.
Wow.
Under the umbrella, we have so many kids that are participating, and now that we've opened the Bangor, we're at the Bangor Arts Exchange.
Oh yeah. Right.
There's so much wonderful music of many different genres happening.
Right.
Have you played there?
We have not. No, we haven't played out yet. We're just family room warriors.
Okay, we have to do a concert of family bands.
Yeah, right. That would be so much fun. We'll get out. We'll get out at some point. I'm sure of it. But we could go on for a long time on all of these things. We haven't even touched on, and I don't think we really need to too much, the connections that we've made with the orchestra. We've had a lot of fun with our beer and music pairing that we're talking about doing another one. We'd love to see that happen. For those who weren't able to check that out. That was a lot of fun.
It was great.
Paired some beers with some music that commingled very, very well, that were inspired and by the same sorts of feeling and emotive qualities. I think it was a great success. I think we're going to see more of those things happen in the future, and I think we're seeing more of that kind of thing happen in Bangor. And I am so happy that you found a home here, that you picked here, and for as long as you're going to stick around, I'm going to be a fan and a friend, and I appreciate you taking the time and doing this, and I think we'll have some fun very soon in the future on some more projects together, and
likewise, it's been a wonderful collaboration, and I think one of the coolest things was seeing our soloist Elena Uriosti play in front of the
big tent.
Play at the launch of the Maestro's Märzen.
And that was wild too, because I've played music for quite a time, and I understand on a baseline level of what you want and need for your space, for a piece to come across correctly, and we had no idea what the acoustics were going
Right,
to be, how
right.
it was all, and it all worked out. It was a cool
It was
night.
unique, and that's
It
the
was
thing.
so unique.
That's the thing about live music. Only the people that are in the space can have that experience.
Yeah.
You can listen to a CD 100 times, but only the people that actually go through the effort of getting into their car and parking and going someplace have that experience.
And to that night particularly, to have a world-class musician share with us a piece in a very non-traditional place. When are you going to have that experience again? When are you going to have that experience again? And I think everybody who was there that night really understood that this is unique in a very, very cool way. Yeah, it was awesome. And I think we'll continue to see more of those opportunities in the near future. But, well, Lucas, again, we could talk. We haven't even seen the iceberg yet, let alone,
part two.
I think we will. We'll have to follow up and dive deep into maybe a recap of the season once the season is completed, and talk a little bit more about some of the projects that we're going to work on together. That's great. So, well, thank you for coming. Thank you for tuning in. Cheers. Thank you.